Hello, and welcome back to the Film Library, a Kanopy podcast. I'm Kristy Puchko, entertainment editor at Mashable.
And I'm Jeff Rauseo, film lover, karaoke enthusiast, and the guy who thinks life would be better if we all just broke in a song a little more often.
Agreed. This week, we're turning up the spotlight, cueing the orchestra, and stepping into the dazzling, unpredictable world of musicals.
Yeah, from the rebellious to the romantic, we're digging into music at the movies that challenge the genre, reinvent it, or just make you want to belt out a tune in the shower.
And I'll be honest, this is one of the most fun episodes we've prepped for because musicals are a genre that invite big feelings, big performances, and some big-time weirdness.
Yeah, for sure. Kanopy has everything on there from Broadway adaptations to cult curiosities, but I think we pulled together a few films that really showed just how wide the genre can go. So warm up those vocal cords, dust off the jazz hands, and get ready for a playlist of musicals you won't want to miss. Before
we jump into our lists, Jeff, I have a question for you. What would your musical karaoke song be?
So this has changed over the years, but since I've had a daughter and I listen to a lot of Moana, I think that I could do a great rendition of You're Welcome. Solid. And really kill that. She thinks I'm Maui just because I'm a big person. So she's still young enough to just be like, "You're Maui, right, Dad?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am Maui." Maui is way stronger than I am, but I'll take it.
I once met a cosplayer who had an excellent Maui. He even did like the drawn on tattoos. He looked incredible. And I took a photo with him and sent it to my niece, who at the time was like 3. And for months after, she would ask when I was hanging out with Maui again.
I love that.
And yeah. I didn't have the heart to tell her, I'm not friends with Maui. And my friend was like, you have to become friends with Dwayne Johnson. You cannot let her down. I'm still working on it, but I do have it. I interviewed him now. So we're baby steps.
You're getting there now. Yeah. You're basically there.
But to that end, I'm also on the Disney tip. There are definitely, I am a karaoke person, not like a singing person. And by that, I mean, if the song is about attitude, I'm there. And so for me, it's Poor Unfortunate Souls. I can kill an Ursula. She's inspired by a drag queen. I have that in me. So my Poor Unfortunate Souls, I'll bring down the house on that one.
That is I've actually seen that musical too. But as a high school production, because my cousin was Sebastian and he killed it. He was great. So they did a really good performance at that. I would love to see that. We should have an episode where you just sing that, maybe as the intro.
I will say though, I did do, this isn't a musical number, but I did flagpole Sitta at a party at TIFF where the girls from K-pop Demon Hunters who play Huntrix performed. And that was really wild. I was very glad that they were not immediately after me because I was like that, or I was immediately after them. But I was up there just being paranoid, getting really into my 90s moment. And then they're doing those high notes. And I'm like,
oh, that was your pop star moment then. I mean, you're basically, geez.
Yeah, I'm
surprised I didn't see that online somewhere.
Oh, I posted them performing.
We need you.
Though, you know what's funny? Somebody recorded me performing and then airdropped it to me. She's like, "You were great here." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, that's random fun. Lady." Yeah, it's because I don't have I have a very high tolerance for embarrassment. So karaoke's my jam. But yeah, let's get into it. I think this actually translates well because I do feel like you've picked a first pick that has a similar vibe.
It does. And I am people are going to think I'm crazy, but I think last episode I picked a crazy sequel in our Frights episode. And now I'm going with a sequel again that I'm going to defend. And it's Grease 2. And I want to just give some love to this movie because I know the original is iconic, right? Nobody's questioning that. It's iconic. But Grease 2 kind of gets a lot of hate, but I think it's really a lot of fun. And deserves way more appreciation. If you ask my wife, if she came in here right now, she would tell you she might like it better than the original Grease. This is the one she grew up on, but it's got a great cast. Michelle Pfeiffer is the new Pink Ladies leader. Maxwell Caulfield is an English exchange student who falls in love with her. So it's kind of flipped. The boy's now the exchange student. To win her over, Michael has to take on the secret identity, become her dream guy. It's Grease in reverse, but the songs in this are what absolutely kill it. Reproduction is one of my favorite musical songs of all time. That whole scene in the classroom, it is cheeky and hilarious and campy, and Score Tonight with the bowling alley. Like, there's a ton of really fun, campy comedy moments in this. Like, it does not take itself too seriously. It's got all the silliness. It's got all the energy. Michelle Pfeiffer is incredible in it. This is like, I think, one of her breakout roles. As the first thing I ever saw her in. And she sells it really well. She's the cool Pink Ladies leader, and she doesn't try to do what they did in Grease. She does her own thing. And I love defending sequels like this that people just kind of write off. Like, yeah, it's Grease 2. It's not like I'm a Jaws 3 guy as well. Like, Jaws and SeaWorld is cool. And I know it's stupid and campy and like cheesy, but it's still entertaining. And that's Grease 2 for me. It's just colorful, fun, over the top vibes with just incredible music. Like, the songs are ridiculously catchy in this, just as catchy as the original, and I will defend it to my end of days.
I love that. I also picked a very fun, kind of offbeat musical for my first pick. I picked The Producers, and notably the 1967 version, which was not actually a musical. It did go on to become a Broadway show, which then became a adaptation with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane. But I'm going OG, baby. I'm going back. It's actually Mel Brooks's directorial debut, which is
crazy,
wild to me. Yeah, because it's just like, it's already so understanding what Mel Brooks's humor is. Like, I know he became kind of better known for a lot of parodies for a while. I have seen Spaceballs more times than I have seen Star Wars. That's just facts. But like, this movie, man, it's Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder in the lead roles. And for those unfamiliar with the plotline, Zero plays a Broadway producer who is bad at his job. He just can't make a hit come together. And so he is basically playing a Lothario to these older biddies about town in New York, who will basically like hook up with him and then give him money to produce his plays, and his plays bomb. And he tends to extort a teeny bit of money. So when this accountant played by Gene Wilder shows up, he's like, well, where did this $2,000 go? And he's like, I went to the spa. Leave me alone. And like, Gene Wilder playing this very uptight accountant is just like, it's kind of funny because you could like make more money if you failed, if you did it right. And so they start conspiring that they're going to make a bunch of money by making the worst musical that Broadway's ever seen. And it's a musical about Hitler. And like, it's still so funny, the swings this movie takes to like step you through all the ways they're trying to make sure this is bad. Like, first off, sounds like a terrible idea, terrible plan. And then they like pick a director that they think is a hack, and then they pick an actor they think is just going to be a horrendous. And it's just a very, very funny movie that is about musicals, but also about a kind of New York mindset that I find very funny. And it just has one of my favorite New York on Cinema moments for just where they're at Lincoln Center, which the fountain has been redone now. It doesn't look like it did then. But Zero's trying to talk Gene into this scheme. Because Gene is he's a straight and narrow, noble man, an accountant, and he is begging him to be a dreamer and a swindler. And Gene Wilder yells out, I want everything I've ever seen in the movies. And then he runs around the fountain. And it's like, it's such a good moment that the movie also ends with that moment. Like, they play it again as if also like, oh, yeah. And it's just like, I love it so much. It's so funny. And like, watching it again, I was just like, this is a wild film. Like, I love Mel Brooks. It's just like, you can't go wrong with a Mel Brooks movie. But this one is just so... It's so bold. It's so funny. And I truly love that it does feel like it is about Broadway culture, for better or for worse. And it just feels like it's like, it is a weirdo musical, and I love it with my whole heart.
No, I first saw it like a few years ago. I did not know it was Mel Brooks' debut, because you're totally right. That's like, he like somehow already had established all the humor and the style and was just like, this is who I am. Boom. First movie, nailed it. And I'm going to go from there. I had no idea. I knew it was his movie, but wow. And what a debut. Like, he had to pitch that as his debut film. I want to know what that meeting was like.
It feels so, because like I have seen the movie adaptation of the Broadway show. And the other thing about this is it does have musicals energy. Like it has that very kind of like dun, you know, like there's a lot of big, and like what's so great is that Gene Wilder, as he did in Willy Wonka, as he did in every comedy, he's not playing the laughs. He is playing it so seriously. And it's just like watching him have a meltdown is so funny because he just means it. And you're just like, oh my guy, you just want to give him a big old hug. But like, man, this movie, it's like it's weirder and grungier than the Broadway like reproduction that would come later, and I love that so much about it because you're just watching it and you're like, you can feel the big swing, you know, like the second movie is funny. It's a victory lap. This is going for it.
Yeah, totally, and it is very, very good. So if you have not seen the original, this is the one. This is the one I love the most. So go check it out. And in my usual here, I have two really fun movies, I promise. Grease 2 is the first one. But in the middle, I've always got to throw you guys a little curveball, and we're going to get a little weird and a little depressing, like a little bit depressing. We're going to talk about Her Smell, which is a wild name for a movie. It's an incredible title, but it's a little indie drama, musical drama from 2018. It was directed by Alex Ross Perry. So if there are any hardcore music fans out there like Pavements, he just directed that documentary. I think that was last year that came out. It's all about Becky something. She's played by Elizabeth Moss. You probably know from Handmaid's Tale or Mad Men. And she's the front woman of a 90s punk rock band who is spiraling out of control. So she's unpredictable, she's erratic, she's destructive, and the movie kind of feels that way too. Like from the beginning of the movie, it's loud, it's disorienting, it's uncomfortable. It feels like you're in the middle of this spiral with Becky. And it's, you know, it's a little bit of the typical, you know, rock and roll excess story with addiction, mental health, fame, self-destruction, the rise and the fall. Instead of backstage glamour shots, you get, you know, kind of dingy dressing rooms. You see all the behind the scenes when you strip away the glamour. But I really like that look at it. I'm a 90s punk rock fan, so the music obviously fits really well. And I think you can see multiple different real artists inside of Becky in this movie. Like this is clearly not necessarily based on one individual, but it's a kind of combination of the people from that time period who went through this and lived it and were in this world. I mean, it was kind of dingy and dirty and it was chaotic as rock and roll can be. So the nice thing about it though, as much as that is kind of crazy, and it's a wild movie, at the end of it, you do get this really nice final act where you kind of strip down everything. Elizabeth Moss sits down at a piano. She gives us a great performance, which is a gut punch at the end of this film after everything she's gone through. And you get this kind of final glimpse of a little bit of vulnerability and the real beauty of it. And you see like the real artist come out. It's definitely not an easy movie. It is like all those things, chaotic, loud, abrasive, can be uncomfortable. But like one of the better depictions of that self-destructive genius artist that I've seen in a movie, it will remind you of, you know, like the Kurt Cobains and the Amy Winehouses. Not that they're always self-destructing, but also what the industry did to them and put them through and the way they had to deal with it. You know, and you get that sort of redemption at the end, but it's not easy to get there. And it kind of leaves you questioning, but what's next too? Like she had this moment, but do I trust that that's it, or are we going to go spiral again? So it's really interesting. I don't know if you're into punk rock and you're into that kind of scene and want to dive deep into the mind of a fictional artist, Elizabeth Moss kills it, like totally different from anything I've seen her in. One of my favorite performances of hers, and definitely a movie that I think you should check out. It's a small little indie one, and I love supporting those. So go give it a watch.
I love that. My next pick is actually similar in tone in that it is about making music and about how tough this business can be on people. I picked Inside Llewyn Davis from 2013. It's a Coen Brothers movie. And it's such a stellar movie. It's Oscar Isaac playing Llewyn Davis, who was like part of a folk duo. Think kind of, Simon and Garfunkel. And he's a solo act now. And things are not going well. And it's like, what I enjoy about this movie is the Coen brothers often make movies about losers. And they often cast very charismatic people, often men, to play those losers. But this is not a George Clooney comedy. Oscar Isaac as Llewyn Davis is kind of a miserable jerk for much of the movie. And we don't understand why for a while. Like, we don't know his backstory for a big chunk of it. So you're just watching this guy who like doesn't have a coat of his own, who has a stray cat in his arm, who is sometimes walking around in like sloppy, wet socks in cold weather. And you're like, it is just a movie. I'm realizing I'm not making this sound fun or like a musical at all. But here's the thing, because it's like those are the low points, right? Those are the we love to think of like rock stars and the glamour and the partying, and like Llewyn is not having that life. He is crashing on couches and making enemies everywhere he goes. And it's so interesting because it's like when he sings, there is such heart and vulnerability when he sings that you understand a little better why he is the way he is. And I'm not saying this in like that justification of like, if a man is a genius at the arts, he can be a jerk. Like, I'm not saying it's more like he's so wounded that's why you have this gruff exterior, is because it's protecting someone who is deeply heartbroken and is not sure how he fits anymore into this world, into music. And it's also just very funny because it's like he's playing these very touching folk songs, but then you also have things like Please Mr. Kennedy, which, man, when this film played at New York Film Festival, and like this is pre-Adam Driver being everywhere. And like when Justin Timberlake was kind of still new to acting, but there's like a number where Llewyn gets called in to just be a contract player in a song called Please Mr. Kennedy, which is playing into what the trend is right now, which is space themes. And this song is so goofy. And it's the thing that's so frustrating is it's very catchy. And I feel like watching it in the audience, you're like, I know I'm supposed to hate this, but this is really fun. But it's like, I think that's intentional. I think you're supposed to like recognize this isn't a good song, but it's a fun song. And this is exactly what Llewyn is fighting against, is that like, he is making this music so that he can literally make any kind of money, but he hates it and he doesn't think it's good. But also we watching it, who are supposed to be on his side, are like, I mean, but it's kind of fun, right? Like, so like, I love that, like, even within the song numbers, you're kind of having this like mental war of like, what does it mean? And what is the value? I mean, it's a Coen, so assume outstanding cast, assume really bracing drama. And it's interesting because it is a musical, but not in the way where like people stop everything and like you have a song number speaking for the characters, but in a more grounded way where their song numbers are speaking for them, but through a filter of, needing money, or a filter of having to sell yourself. And like, it's just, man, whew. It's like, especially with cold weather coming, I feel like this is a very good cold weather movie. This is like get under a blanket, because like when he has those like that just downtrodden look and those soggy socks, you're like, yeah, I've been there. That's rough.
It's definitely that's a good call. It's definitely a good cold. Even the way they shot it is very like
all these cool tones.
Yeah, it's like, very blue and cool, and yeah, that is a good snow day movie with some hot chocolate for sure.
It's a very much what New York feels like in the winter. And like, I can't speak to the 60s in New York, but like now, yeah, man, it gets cold and wet. This is the vibe.
Yeah, no, I feel that as somebody who's lived in New England my whole life, it is, cold and wet and blue and everything is soggy, and that is Inside Llewyn Davis. And that is also our winters. So that's a good call. I have not seen that in a very long time, probably since I saw it in theaters. So I need to watch it again. It had me, when the Bob Dylan movie came out, I was like, I think this other movie's better. I think I like this better. And it made me want to rewatch it.
I'm more an inside Llewyn person than I am a complete unknown person.
Yeah.
Which is no shade to Timothy. I think he actually did a really good Dylan.
He did. It's just, I really like Inside Llewyn Davis. And I think if you like the complete unknown, then jump back to this one. You'll have a good time with it. But going from one, talking Bob Dylan, I'm going to go to a different artist in the 60s who is not quite Bob Dylan, a little more famous. A little group you might have heard of.
I just love, that's great. That's an genuinely excellent segue. I just love the idea of describing this particular group as not quite Bob Dylan.
Not quite Bob Dylan. A little more famous. A little group you might have heard of now and then called the Beatles. And my pick is Across the Universe. So this movie, my wife is a massive Beatles fan. She showed it to me when we first started dating, and I was not a Beatles guy. I was like, whatever. I'm like 18. I'm like, the Beatles are lame. That's old music. I don't need that. And I watched this and it sold me on them big time. And now I've gone and seen Paul McCartney and trying to see all the Beatles who are still living and love their music and everything. So the whole musical is built entirely around the music of the Beatles. And it kind of follows their career and also the history of America with what's happening, and a little bit in the UK in that time period. So it kind of starts in the UK, just like they did. It comes over to America in the 1960s, and you see all these things unfolding with the Beatles music, like Vietnam War and counterculture and this whole big upheaval that this decade was in America. So as a history guy, it's really cool. Lead characters are named Jude, who's played by Jim Sturgis, who's awesome in Lucy. So big Beatles references, who's played by Evan Rachel Wood. Everything in this is like Beatles and 60s references. Like, it is very in your face Beatles. So if you do not like the Beatles, you are not going to like this movie. Everything is a Beatles reference. But the way it I love the way it reinterpreted a lot of the Beatles songs to sort of fit the story. It wasn't always that song was from the time period that the movie was in, but they found a way to make a song fit. And there's a lot of really cool sequences that remind me of, like, there's some stuff that happens for the benefit, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite, is like that carnival scene is so like otherworldly and different and feels like a bit of an acid trip, which is very intentional, I think, in that moment. There's just so many cool visual things that they do. The way they stage each sequence, I mean, they look like kind of almost like a stage. Like, they do give you that feel, but I don't actually know if this one's ever been brought to stage. The movie definitely came first, if it has. So it feels like almost a stage musical, but it's in this film form. And so many great cameos. Bono's in this. Joe Cocker's in this. You're going to recognize other people too. But it's just this music that a lot of people love, but it makes, and you've all heard these songs a million times. We've all heard I Want to Hold Your Hand and Let It Be and Strawberry Fields Forever. But kind of when you see it played against the backdrop of like the Vietnam War, it feels different. Or, Strawberry Fields is this kind of like protest moment in the movie, and Let It Be is playing over all these images of riots, and it just changes the way you think about all of the Beatles music. And it was I think kind of genius the way they took this and ran with it. It is one of my all-time favorite musicals, not just picking from hey, musicals on campy. Like, this is one of my all-time favorites. It's one I can watch over and over again. It made me a Beatles fan, and the intersection of all that history, culture, what was going on in America. The 60s kind of fascinates me. 60s in America is like one of the craziest decades, although 2020s are going to give you the run. The 60s were one of those decades, and this movie just kind of gives you that. It gives you that history lesson. It will change the way you think about the Beatles, and it's a great example of just like music and storytelling, and how great the storytelling and songwriting of the Beatles was, that you can literally just like take their lyrics and turn it into a movie. It says a lot about how well they wrote a lot of these songs.
I love that. My next pick Does At first I thought it has nothing to do with your pick, but then I realized I had forgotten Evan Rachel Wood is in both these movies.
It's true.
So someone at home is going, I know what it is. And good for you, buddy. It is Weird, the Al Yankovic story from 2022. I love this movie because it sounds like something I made up. Like I specifically, if I were to say to somebody, oh yeah, I love the biopic, this, it sounds like a lie I specifically would make up because it involves Weird Al Yankovic. It's a musical. It is chaotic and stars Daniel Radcliffe, which I'm proud to say Daniel Radcliffe won awards for this, including one for my guild, the CCA, for his performance in this because he is legit great as Weird Al Yankovic. But this is a movie from director Eric Appel, and it was actually inspired by a comedy sketch way back in 2010 that Funny or Die did, which I remembered that so clearly when this trailer actually hit, and I was like, they're doing it. And the joke of the sketch from 2010 was that Weird Al Yankovic is so wholesome, but if you made a biopic about him, you'd have to make him look like a, unhinged rock star with all the drugs and sex and flameouts, right? That like we associate with biopics about rock stars. And so this movie does that, even though not remotely what the real Weird Al story is. But like what's so funny is it becomes like Walk Hard, where it is a parody of the genre, like poking fun at what inspired my Bologna. There's a whole thing where he's sitting with the people in his band and they're just like, he's like, I'll make you guys lunch, what do you want? And they're like, oh, you can use my Bologna. And then he's like sitting there and you have that like eureka moment. And like Gene Wilder, Daniel Radcliffe is an actor who will not play the joke. He will play it so sincerely, which is also why I love Miracle Workers. Like it's that same energy where everything he's doing is absurd, but he's not doing that little like, huh, aren't I funny? He's not doing that Jimmy Fallon thing. Like he's committed. I don't know why Fallon's catching strays.
That's okay. I kind of agree.
But I was like, what is the opposite
Sorry,
of Daniel
Jimmy.
Radcliffe? Yeah. It was like opposite of Daniel Radcliffe. Everyone knows Jimmy Fallon. But yeah, Daniel Radcliffe is so funny in this. But Evan Rachel Wood, who? So famously, they reached out to her and were like, do you want to play Madonna? And she wrote back, yes. Like, she's like, I didn't need to read the script. Yeah, I want to play Madonna. And Madonna, she is such a good Madonna. And we're talking like, Madonna 80s version with the mesh and the bangles. And she's so good in this. Just like truly the part she was born to play. So funny. And it's just such a bonkers movie that so many famous people are in because there's like a scene at like a party and they shove in every reference you can imagine. So it's like you have Conan O'Brien playing Andy Warhol. You have David Dastmalchian playing one of the guys from Queen. Jack Black, like everybody's there. People are playing Pee Wee Herman and like Divine, and it's such an amazing moment, such a funny moment, and it's like his moment to like prove himself. And apparently, for years, Weird Al played the trailer from Funny or Die at his concerts, and I can say that now he plays that scene from this movie because I saw Weird Al play at Madison Square Garden this year. Which, if you get a chance to go see Weird Al, go. It is a wild time. He gives everything in those concerts. And it's really funny because you do see that reflected here in the movie, where as silly as they get and as much as they are just making stuff up and playing to tropes of rock stars rather than what his life was actually like Daniel is giving us everything. And it's so funny and it's so smart and stupid at the same time. And I say that as high praise. Like, I love how unseriously this movie takes things. Because I think truly my favorite like rock musicals, especially when they're biopics, like think Rocket Man, think Better Man. I love when the person being represented is like, look, I'm not going to take myself that seriously because that is the lesson I learned about being a rock star is like, that's not the way to go about it. And this does that. It's very funny. It's very silly. And there's so many parts where I just want to explain to you what the bit is because everybody knows great comedy is explaining jokes to people. But like, this is just such a treasure. And yeah, watch the movie, and then once you've seen it, if you're like, how much of that was true? The short answer is very little. But you can look it up on Mashable, and I have a full rundown, including like, did Weird Al and Madonna date? I have everything you need to know. I love when a movie just takes a big swing. And really proud I started with the producers and ended with Weird Al. I feel like that's actually a very good follow-through arc.
It's full circle.
Yeah. It's very funny because, like, you know, on Letterboxd where they tell you, like, you've watched the most movies by these actors, because of Naked Gun this year, Weird Al is climbing that list.
That is funny because how many movies is he in?
I mean, more than you would think, because I did check, but I think
so many cameos, right?
Yeah, I think I have like 5 Weird Al movies now on my Letterboxd for the year. So he's coming close to my number 1, which is Defoe. I still got Willem Dafoe in the lead, but
that's a fight. That's a good battle. Right? I want to see Willem Dafoe and Weird Al head to head.
If anything explains my taste, it is that it's Willem Dafoe and Weird Al Yankovic right at the top, fighting out for whose movies I'm going to see more this year.
No, it's great. And I do love that you brought up Walk Hard, because that's when I was watching this, I was like, yeah, that is definitely, but what's so cool about this is that Weird Al was like, yeah, you could do this about me. I'm a real person.
Like, it's not just, to be clear, I didn't just count it but he's in it, and I love that. But he's also in like every Naked Gun movie, which is why like he just keeps climbing, normally as himself. So like, he's just working his way up my Letterboxd list. But yeah, truly, truly lovely. And just
it's like, so good.
And one of those people that like Mel Brooks, where I feel like you were able to like him in the 80s, and you can still like him now. Like, you're like, this is a solid pick. I had good taste in these regards.
Oh yeah. Weird Al's like aged on me, like better as I've gotten older. And when I was younger, I was like, his songs are super funny, and like my dad was like, you got to listen to all the 80s parodies and stuff. And I was like, okay, but like, I actually appreciate him more the older I'm getting, and like learning about him. He's just such a cool dude. He's such a cool guy. So genuine, it feels like. No, shout out Weird Al and shout out Weird Daniel Radcliffe, because man, I love that he was like, I'm going to be Harry Potter and make a bunch of money, and then I'm going to do the weirdest stuff and do whatever I want for the rest of my life. So shout out Daniel Radcliffe. Right?
Honestly, the Harry Potter kids, so many of them are just doing marvelous things, and I'm so stoked about it. Like, yeah.
Good
for them.
They are.
I think that's a wrap on our spotlight on musicals. We hope that your watch list is now full of toe tappers and showstoppers, and maybe a few offbeat gems you didn't hear coming.
We'll drop all our picks in the show notes and over on Kanopy's Letterboxd HQ account. If you want to stream any of these show-stopping films, just head to Kanopy.com, totally free with your library card or university login.
Be sure to subscribe to the Film Library so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And if you like this one, leave us a review. Or, better yet, actually, just tell us what your favorite musical number that you're always hitting replay is.
Yeah, is it a big Broadway-style finale, a sneaky character ballad, a rock anthem, or is it My Mr. Kite in the Carnival from Across the Universe? Which one makes you want to start a band? Drop your pick in the comments and tag us on social.
You can find me on Instagram at the Kristy Puchko, and I'm also on Blue Sky and Letterboxd. Just search my name, Kristy Puchko, KristyPuchko.
And I'm Jeff Rauseo on Instagram, TikTok, and Letterboxd. Just search my name, JeffRauseo. So thanks for listening, and remember, don't dream it, be it.
Little jazz hands for the ending.